Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash entitled people. In today's episode, how to get fired by your hairdresser. Who's entitled here, me or them? Solicitor walked into my grandparents' house. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. How to get fired by your hairdresser. So, my amazing, beautiful, super cool mother-in-law owns a high-end hair salon and is a very popular and well-respected hairdresser in our large tourist city. As everyone knows, the pandemic was particularly hard on many businesses, and especially in the way salons operate in general. When they were finally able to open again for the first time, wearing a mask was the law. Salons that did not follow this law were actively being fined and or closed. On top of that, my husband was diagnosed with a rare form of lymphoma around that time, which makes him extremely vulnerable to any and all colds, flus, and infections. This is where the real trouble started. ML had a long-time client named Janet, but she absolutely refused to put on a mask. My ML explained to Janet that she had to wear one because it is the law, and she could be fined far more than her styling costs. Janet doubled down, ranting about her rights as an American, blah, blah, blah. ML pushed back again with the law and the fines. Still, Janet remained unmoved. ML now got as serious as a mom can get. She explained once again that her son has cancer. Janet rolls eyes. Yeah, I know. I read it on Facebook. ML, then you understand that if I get sick, I can't see my son or it could kill him. Janet, so what? Isn't he terminal anyway? Pause for shock while everyone in the salon just freezes for a second. ML backs away from chair. You need to leave. Janet, Pikachu face. What? Why? Hairdresser number 2. Get out. Get out now. Get out before I call the police. And that is how you get fired from your very expensive hairdresser. How anyone can think their bleach blonde hairdo is more important than the hairdresser's child is beyond me. You know that woman has scissors in her hand, right? Little note about Hub's cancer. Yes, at the time his diagnosis was terminal, but thanks to advances in science he is now living with cancer instead of dying from it. However, he is still quite vulnerable to germs and viruses because it's lymphoma. What an absolutely vile and evil thing to say. Janet is far more than entitled. Janet can't understand normal thinking. Janet was a perfect example for why COVID was so bad for many people. She just came right out and admitted that the lives of other vulnerable people didn't matter to her. These people are still around and patting themselves on the back for being cruel and ignorant. What the actual F? If she was in my chair, not sure she would have ever made it out. The nerve. I'm horrified by this woman. It's one thing to be anti-facts, but it's another to be so callous about the health of someone's child. Also so happy to hear he's been able to hold it at bay. I have a family friend who is terminal but is currently CT negative due to a new chemo she's able to get. She'll never be cancer-free, and it's a matter of time, but it means she's getting to see her kids' milestones that she never thought she would see. I hope you guys have many, many years XX. Who's entitled here, me or them? If anyone is kind enough to read this and give me your opinion, I'd appreciate it. I'll do my best to present the facts. Lived in current house about 7.5 years. Neighbors on one side added a garage to backyard. There was already an attached garage, so added a driveway going right next to the house all the way up to about 2 inches from property line. This all happened before us. Previous owners didn't like view of driveway, so planted a 75-foot row of arborvitae. Fast forward to last week. I look out and the neighbor has cut the entire back side off of one of the arborvitae, the biggest, most crucial one to providing privacy between our patio and their back door area. There is now a giant hole in a 20-year-old, 20-foot-tall tree. I run out, practically crying, asking, "What are you doing?" The guy says he's sorry, didn't mean to cut so much, and that he'll pay for half a new tree if I want one. I told him I was very upset and I'd get back to him. Every cut he made was well onto my side of the property. He admits as much, but says he crossed the line so as to make clean cuts. Anyway, replacing such a mature tree is astronomically expensive, and I'm guessing he means to split the cost of a baby one. I'm also not sure a new one would do well since there are other large arborvitae on either side. So, I figure the best way to get the privacy back and to keep my tree off his driveway is to add a few fence panels. I let him know what I was thinking, that I'd pay for it, etc. He comes back at me saying we cannot put a fence next to the property line because their car doors will hit it, as his driveway is only 10 feet wide. He wants us to come up with a solution we both like. Remember, I'm only proposing this because he cut my tree. Plus, it would only be about 25 feet of fencing on 125-foot driveway. I don't want a neighbor war here, but I don't know what to do. I'm surprised a neighbor would expect us to keep clear part of our property for their use. Am I wrong? I'm worried he may deny us access to his driveway if we try to install a fence, though, so I feel boxed in. With the trees there, I imagine the installers would need to be on their property for part of the install. Am I missing something? I know we're all biased towards our own ends, but I really am trying to be fair. So your neighbor trespassed onto your property to cut your tree? Sadly, I think you may already have a neighbor war in your hands. I agree with the other posters to consult with legal. I would also consider getting cameras installed because he felt way too comfortable and entitled to your property than he should. He probably didn't trespass. If he did, it was only a bit. We have small lots, so we could have reached a couple feet in to cut the tree. As mad as I am, I figured I'd let it go and just keep stock the fence. How could he object? I thought his objection was the tree growing into his space. Now I see he wants control over everything in what he seems to think is a gray zone we both share, except he gets to make the decisions and I don't. Tell him this is your solution or he'll have to get a whole new tree. Once he sees the price, I'm sure this will be a decision you both like. Yes, that's actually what I'd prefer, but thought that ask would cause more problems, so thought I'd pay up and do the fence on my own. Now I see he wants to control it all. Doesn't want arborvitae leaves on his side and wants to encroach a couple feet on my side. Ugh. You need a lawyer. You probably have a good claim regarding the tree, and his objections to your putting a fence on your own property seem out of line, too, but I don't know your local ordinances. Husband is a lawyer and says it's best to leave the lawyers out of it. We can put the fence there. Question is, can we do it without accessing his property? Along with contacting a lawyer, I would check your exact property lines. With what you've described, it wouldn't matter what your neighbor wants. If you put fencing on your property, he can go to hell. If he does or says anything further about it, well, the width of his driveway isn't your problem, and you could definitely seek legal recourse. This is why you don't mess with something in your neighbor's yard or along a property line without speaking to the neighbor. Solicitor walked into my grandparents' house. Tried putting this in a different subreddit, but I didn't have enough karma, but it fits here too. Some dude, we'll call him Chad cause I don't actually know his name, was trying to promote his auto shop and stuff. And so I'm in my grandparents' house and I answer the door. And this guy starts talking about his auto shop, all in French until I tell him I don't speak French. After poorly explaining why he's their Chad, then sees my grandparents and starts talking to them afterwards, in French again, so it's difficult to understand what he's saying. He then asks if he can come inside the house. I go to say no, but he doesn't even wait for an answer and just kinda walks in but stays at the door. So how the house is set up, the second you walk in, there are like 5 steps going into the house, both up and down. As Chad continues talking to my grandparents, he starts walking up the stairs further into the house. At this point, he accidentally hits me as he walks by and tells me to move instead of apologizing for hitting me. I'm obviously pissed, but my grandparents are able to get him to leave with his $200 frickin' oil change like I took a mechanics class. It should not be that expensive even if synthetic oil is used. Even without the class, you can find that out with a Google search. So later in the day, still kinda peeved I didn't get to tell him off. It's around 7 p.m. and the hoe came back. And so my aunt answers the door. But where I'm sitting in the house, you can clearly see me. So he calls out and is like, "Yo, where's your dad?" He only met my grandpa, so I'm assuming he meant him. I then go up to the door, and I tell him to leave. I had to say the words "go" and "leave" 15 times before he even started stepping away. Albeit he only started stepping away as my aunt started closing the door, so I doubt my words actually spurred him to go. I even had to pull out that I've taken mechanics classes, I can do my own oil change, and Chad frickin' leaves with, "I swear I'm a nice guy." Like, who says that? And this isn't how solicitors should act. Like people already don't like solicitors, you're making it worse, you know. It's also weird to me that he remembers the house and the people inside, and I should have threatened to call the cops. But now I'm peeved, and I wish I had done something more instead of just standing idly the first time he came around. I'm just worried cause what if he comes back again? Like he's actually scaring me cause why'd he come back at 7 p.m. in the first place like it's dark out? I'm also tempted to write a strongly worded letter with the company he works for. He gave me the IG, but at this point I'm not even sure if he was actually a salesman or if he was just a scammer. I'm actually just so pissed right now. Edit. Thank you guys for the advice. I'll be sure to notify the rest of the family about this too. They'll be better help because they actually live here. I'm only visiting. I'll look through Quebec laws on casing and just hope that nothing bad happens. We're currently looking through home security cameras and alarms to prevent this, and I swear if I see him again, I'm going to go through with my initial thought and punch him. Thanks again. Your grandparents are being set up for a robbery. The guy is scouting the house to see how much resistance he'd get inside. I don't know where you live or your views, but in my house and locale, he would have been met with extreme resistance and arrested for home invasion if he survived. Read into that what you will. Lock everything, look for suspicious people and vehicles, and if he comes back, call the cops and report home invasion in progress. Prepare to resist. Good luck. Definitely was casing the place. I remember having something similar happen years ago, except I had a very angry German Shepherd I sicked on the guy after I warned him several times to leave. He refused, so I told him my dog would escort him off my property. He didn't believe me. Storm gladly did as he screamed like a little girl running up my cul-de-sac. Storm got a lovely steak dinner that night. He was casing the place. Time for a large sign at the door. No solicitors. I had to add one saying, if you are pushing solar, go away. Mainly because they would still darken my doorstep. I even had to explain to a few that even though you don't think you are soliciting, you need to look up the definition in the dictionary, because that is 100% of what you are doing. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.